Hey everyone, welcome to the KetonExpress Summit. We're here today with Carolyn Ketchum from All Day I Dream About Food, and I'll let her say hi in a second, but I want to introduce her properly. So she is the writer, photographer, and evil mastermind behind All Day I Dream About Food. It's a low-carb and gluten-free food blog, and since its inception in 2010, All Day I Dream About Food has grown to be one of the most popular low-carb sites on the web. She gets over 1 million page views every month, and it's devoted following. It has a devoted following among dieters, diabetics, celiacs, and those simply trying to live a healthier lifestyle. And Carolyn's recipes and photography have been featured in Women's Health, Glamour.com, The Huffington Post, Diabetic Living, Redbook, and Shape Magazine, among others. Her mission is to prove to the world that special diets don't need to be boring or restrictive, and that low-carb and gluten-free dishes can be as good or as better as their conventional counterparts. And it's astonishing what you can do with a bag of almond flour, a stick of butter, and a willingness to experiment, she says. So welcome, Carolyn. So glad to have you today on the summit.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So tell us about your low-carb journey. How did you come to a low-carb diet, and why did you choose to make it a lifestyle?
Well, I like to say I didn't. It chose me because I had gestational diabetes with my third child. And for a little bit after she was born, it seemed to go away. You know, I was always healthy and fit and, you know, ate a healthy standard American diet.
Yeah.
And so, it kind of stuck around. So at first it seemed like it went away. And then a couple months later, I was testing every so often, and I was seeing the numbers go up. And so I did my research and decided that a low-carb diet was the only way to go, but I wasn't particularly happy about it at the time. So,
right. Well, then you took that and ran with it, didn't you? So how did All Day I Dream About Food come about with that?
Well, I started experimenting. I've always been a baker. I love baking. I was always the person who brought cookies to the office, or, you know, it's somebody's birthday, I'll make a cake. Like, I just had to. And I thought that my baking life was over when I decided I had to go low carb. And then I started experimenting with almond flour and different sweeteners. And suddenly I just started, these things are completely different from wheat flour. So at first I had some really bad, or I had some edible but not very good things. And then I just started to experiment more and more, and was getting some success. And so I started sharing the recipes, and, you know, it kind of took off from there.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've tried, healthy cookies, low carb cookies or something like that. My kids are like, ugh. And I think that my problem is I just haven't stuck with it long enough.
Yeah. Well, I think people think you can only, get those same flavors, but I swear I have some things that people think, like, you know, there's these butter pecan cookies that I make that everybody's like, wow, these taste like the original. So,
okay.
You know,
you can make them good. You don't have to have all the garbage in them, right?
Right. Okay. Exactly.
Very cool. So what are some of the challenges? You have a huge following now. And so what are some of the challenges that people are going low carb? What do they face? What are the biggest things that they struggle with when they're trying to adopt this low carb lifestyle and still eat the foods they love?
Well, see, that's the thing. I think that they think that you can't eat the foods you love. It's just like, it's changing your perspective, for one. It's also changing how you bake and cook. So you basically have to be ready. You know, cauliflower is going to be a substitute for a lot of things, and, almond flour and just all these different things that you kind of have to change your mind about. And some people are like, oh no, it'll never taste like I want it to. But if you change your expectations, then you're in a much better position to be ready to accept and now I don't think a lot of the foods that I used to think tasted great taste very good. You know, if I have a little bite, I'm like, oh, you know, like kids' Halloween candy. Not that I do that anymore, but I used to, and I'd be like, oh God, this is so sweet. Like,
eat that.
You know, so I think that's a huge one. I think the thing is, people think that the food's going to suck and they're limited for the rest of their lives. And I think my food horizons have expanded by doing this, not narrowed, you know?
Very cool. I love it. And I think that I can see where the truth in that is. It's just deciding that you can like other food. It doesn't always have to taste like what our standard American diet is that we're used to, and then learn how to perfect the ingredients, like you said, that you get to.
Right. And I think another challenge people really have is just I mean, we don't have convenience foods. There are some people putting out keto convenience foods, and some of them are okay. Some of them are pretty junky, just as junky as, and so we don't have as many options. And in this busy lifestyle, if you don't do at least a little meal prep or kind of planning ahead, you can really fall off the wagon, because what happens when you're hungry, you eat something. So that, I think, is probably the trickiest part.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's good advice. Well, it's interesting because do you think the keto, you remember how it happened with the gluten-free kind of phase about 10 years ago? It started really getting to be popular, and it still wasn't convenient, but now you'd have to go to a restaurant and you'd have to be super particular about what you wanted. Now that you go to the restaurant, they know what gluten-free means. Do you think keto will catch up with that, or low carb?
I think it really will. And I worry a little, because I feel like I said, I think some companies are jumping on the bandwagon and saying something's keto, and it's like, wow, well, it's not high. Like, there's a particular ice cream. It's not ice cream, but some sort of like frozen dessert thing. And they've started calling it keto. And I'm like, yeah, but it has no fat in it. Like, they're proud of the fact that it has 0 fat. And I'm like, that's not keto as far as I'm concerned. It's not. So I think the concern is just like gluten-free. Tons of people jump on the bandwagon, but they're putting stuff out there that isn't actually that good. And then some people will have some convenience choices, which is nice, but you really still have to be picky. You have to be picky. I look forward to the day, though. Here in Portland, I can go to a restaurant and be like, no, I don't eat this. And they usually are very good about it. But I do look forward going to the day where there's actually like full on like a cauliflower rice on a menu. I would love that.
Won't that be cool?
It's not that hard.
And it tastes great. I love it. So that'll be cool. Consumers will drive that demand, and we'll be able to find more convenient things. Well, I've even seen the cauliflower already chopped up in Costco now. Have you noticed?
Yeah. Good stuff.
Like, that's an example. Foods, I think, has it too. So.
Right. But I would love to go to, say, like, not a sushi restaurant per se, but someplace that did like sushi bowls or something, and they gave me the choice of cauliflower rice. I would love that, you know? Very
cool. Okay. Well, that's exciting. I think it's promising for those of us who want to adopt this as a lifestyle and make this. Yeah, definitely a healthier option. Okay. So what are some of the biggest benefits of going low carb, and maybe even keto if you want to talk about that? But what are some of the biggest benefits people are getting from doing that?
Well, from personal experience, I know that I have much better glucose control. I think there's so many health issues that people don't even think are really health issues. They're like, oh, I've just, this is just normal. This is my normal. And it isn't or shouldn't be. And then they go keto and they're like, wow, I have energy, or wow, I just discovered my acne cleared up, or wow.
Hormones are all over the place, right?
Exactly. So people are like, wow, I didn't know it would do that, And so I think that there's almost hidden health benefits we don't even know about, because we don't think of that as like a disorder, but it actually is. For me, though, I like, one of the things that I find is for working out, and people think you need carbs for running and working out, and I have more energy when I don't eat those things. Even when I've eaten a little too much low carb stuff, so maybe I've gotten kicked out of ketosis, but I'm still technically keeping my blood sugar under control. I'll find that I get shaky at CrossFit, as opposed to if I stay really nice and, keto, then
in the zone, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. Okay. Awesome. So, what are some of the common pitfalls that we didn't ask this question yet? What are some of the common pitfalls that people face then, and how can they have more success?
Ooh, good question. I think pitfalls, like one of them that I'm always telling people, in this day and age, there's no reason not to have like a support group that supports what you're doing. I think one of the biggest things, and it sucks, is families who totally don't support you, or like a spouse, like sometimes a spouse, like, I'm not going to touch that stuff, and you're left to do it on your own. So, but in this day and age, there's so many online support groups. You have support out there. And so just kind of seeing those, like checking in with those people and reaffirming what you're doing, and, not kind of getting sucked into the negativity that some other people do, it can really, really help and keep you on track. And you can check in with them like, oh, my so-and-so says this, what should I reply to her? And don't be rude, but you can find some good, answers out there. And I think that those are like just having people to help you do it. Don't do it alone, no reason to do it alone. So
yeah, I can see how valuable that would be too. Yeah. Just having those people that do what you're doing and believe what you're doing and what you're doing and kind of keep you motivated to stay on.
And sometimes I'm in those support groups and I'm like, I think I know a lot about keto, but some of these people know more than I do, or they just read a really cool article or journal study that they're sharing that I'm like, oh, wow. So sometimes it's like I learn just as much from my readers and my fellow supporters than I do sometimes just doing it on my own,
Right.
So I learn things from other people, which is great.
Yeah. Kind of the collective, keeping your finger on the pulse of what's happening and what's working for people. Cool.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so we were going to talk about keto and diabetes because that was kind of your history. How is the ketogenic diet? How is it changing lives for diabetics? How is it improving?
Oh, I mean, how's it not?
Right.
Seriously. So I am like, I think back when I was on my book tour, I started my talk almost every time telling a story of how when I was waddling along the Charles River, heavily pregnant with my third kid out, and I had to take a walk after every meal to keep my blood sugar under control. And I didn't do low carb then because my doctor scared the bejesus out of me for, oh, you don't want to go into ketosis, which they confuse with ketoacidosis, two different things. And so, and it wasn't working. Like it just wasn't working. I mean, yes, I barely managed to stay off insulin, but it was a struggle every day. And it was a miserable, you don't want to be miserable when you're pregnant. And so, and so then I wish I had been able to go low carb then. And then when I did go low carb, it was like just, I dropped my carbs slowly compared to what some people do. And I feel like, I saw the benefit at each level, and then I saw more benefit. And then I've kind of found the sweet spot of what worked for me. And I'm able to keep my blood sugar. I'm not on insulin, diet and exercise is completely how it's done. Even if you do have to be on insulin, going on a keto diet can vastly reduce your reliance on insulin. I mean, if you're eating slices of cake and you have to take, I don't know, I'm not type 1, so I can't, but like if you have to take like 30 units of insulin, you're putting stuff in your body that, your body doesn't need or want. And I think it's really hard on your system. And so when you go keto, a lot of like type 1 diabetics find that their insulin needs are really, really reduced. So, and one of the benefits is a lot of them are like, wow, I lost weight too. So, I think I didn't have weight to lose, but a lot of people do, like they go on low carb or keto just to manage their blood sugar. And then they're like, wow, when I lost 30 pounds, the 30 pounds that have been hanging around for 20 years,
which is really hard to get rid of as a diabetic. Yeah,
exactly. So I just think it's really, I feel like the modern nutrition world is doing us a big disservice by pushing the carbs and saying we should be eating at least 150 carbs, because you don't tell you don't tell somebody who's lactose intolerant to drink more milk. Why do you tell somebody who's carb intolerant to eat more carbs? Like, why would you do that? It just makes no sense.
Right. And then it makes no sense from the standpoint of, look, how did we get carb intolerant in the first place, right? It was too many carbs. Our body can't handle it. So,
Yeah.
Okay. Well, cool. And so one thing that I always wonder, not having any experience with diabetes in the keto diet, are there special guidelines? Are there special things that you found as a diabetic that help with the keto?
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, see, again, I'm not on insulin, so I'm not one of the people who needs to worry about lows. Yeah. So I don't really know what that's like, except that I did wear for like a month, and I wore a continuous glucose monitor because somebody sent me one to try. It was very fascinating to see what happens. One of the things that does happen, whether or not you're keto, is that hard exercise can actually raise your blood sugar, because your liver starts putting out glucose to kind of balance and so that's a sort of an interesting point that is kind of, but I also find it'll go sharply up and then it'll come sharply down. So it's not something too concerned about, but special tricks, or I don't know, just keeping it. I mean, one of the things I like to say is that you are going to fall off the wagon sometimes. And I don't mean you're going to eat a sleeve of Oreos. My version of a cheat is like eating too many of my low carb things. And then I find myself like, oh, well, I just kind of ate too much.
Added up. Yeah.
Yeah, they do add up. So, I think you still have to be very conscious of things that you're putting in your mouth, and it's not this crazy free for all, but that's from my personal experience. So.
Yeah. So what about like if on a ketogenic diet, if the blood sugar were to get too low, what do diabetics do to get it back up? Do they have to cheat? Do they have to get some sugar and some carbs in their system, or is
for a type 1, for a type 2 that's not insulin dependent, it's not a concern. It was interesting when I wore this glucose monitor in the night, it would beep at me sometimes because it thought I was too low, but 65 for like somebody wuthout, who's not on insulin is not that low, but it thinks it is because it's concerned that I'm, insulin is a problem. But I guess you would. I mean, a lot of type 1s keep glucose tabs around all the time because they have to, if they overcorrect with insulin, then they end up having to take some.
Just take something. Okay.
Yeah. But I think that's a tricky balance for somebody on insulin to do the keto diet. But I think keto keeps you, like, from everything I've seen and heard, it keeps you so much more steady that you don't have to worry as much about the lows because you're not overtaking the insulin as much. So
yeah. No, I just think that's a really interesting thing. And I'm sure there are people in our audience listening who are type 2 diabetics and
type 1 diabetics.
Diet. So I just kind of wanted to explore that a little bit more for them. Yeah. Obviously, you and I are not doctors, so we're not just prescribing a diet or anything for them.
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. So big benefits no matter what, whether you're insulin dependent or not, for sure.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Anything else about diabetes and the ketogenic diet that you want to add, or any other?
I wish more people would try it. I mean, I wish I could convince more people. I don't proselytize, but I do see, like, I have a lot of actually parents of type 1 diabetics who follow my blog because their kids like the recipes, and then they can send their child to school with a cupcake, that's not going to send their blood sugar out of control. And I know it's a struggle for parents it's just, especially parents of type 1 kids, it's just it's a huge struggle. And I think that if more people tried it, they'd find, okay, I can sleep better a little at night because my kid, I don't have to worry quite so much because he's not having the really highs and lows. Yeah. So,
and don't you think too that it's great because the kid doesn't feel so deprived? It's like, well, you can't have cookies. It's
right.
Let's eat a healthy cookie. Let's eat good, and it doesn't have to just be cookies. Let's fill them up with healthy fats and the good things, right? So they're not feeling like they're deprived.
Right. I think that's really important. I had a woman offer to take headshots for me, professional headshots. She even paid for a makeup artist because one of her kids loves it's a cake, but she's turned it into donuts, and good for her, a little adaptation never hurts. Yep. And her son loves them so much. She's like, you basically gave him that little bit of his life back. And I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. Like this is just a recipe that I created. Yeah. It's no big deal, but it's important to people to feel like they can live, and for their kids to feel like they can live a life.
Yeah.
I think there's so much I just feel like we've got it so backwards right now in terms of nutrition overall, but for nutrition for diabetics. And I'm seeing slight changes, but I'm still waiting for the world to kind of come around to, maybe we'll never see the major associations come around to this way of living, but it's a great way. I love the food, and I don't have to worry about my blood sugar too. So
yeah. And at least people have an option, right? If they can at least get the information, they have a choice about what they're used to do and what.
Right. But we're still afraid, like, but my kid needs carbs to grow. Well, no, I've seen some pretty healthy kids on, there's one guy whose son is type 1, and his child he's like a teenager now, and he plays football, and he's this big guy, and he's growing, but he's super strong, but really athletic, and, not overweight at all. And he's doing great. So
that's awesome. See, yeah. And more stories like that. We need more information like that. So
Yeah, that's what I really wish is they do a lot more studies now on it, and they're starting to, but I'm still waiting for everybody to go, oh, click, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. Why would we do it any other way?
Right.
Okay. So Carolyn, tell us about your cookbooks. We are going to be doing a giveaway of one of your books. It's a gorgeous cookbook, guys. It's just amazing. Look at the pictures in there. It's some amazing recipes. But tell us about this cookbook, and then I know you have some other cookbooks coming out.
Yeah, that cookbook is my first published book. It is 150 plus recipes. It's meant to be more of a reference cookbook for somebody. It's like everything from breakfast to dessert. And I tried to have things be relatively easy, not too many things that need super special ingredients that you've never heard of, because I think that that's really annoying.
Right. So it's something you can do every day, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. And so it's supposed to be the book but it also has some sort of slightly more fancy things just to kind of inspire you a little more in the kitchen. So far it's getting great reviews. I'm really, really thrilled with the reviews. And yeah, it's got a lot of information in it too, how to do certain things, why I'm keto, how keto helps in certain areas. Although I don't consider myself an expert there, I really stayed, I referred to people to the real experts on some of those matters. But yeah, it's kind of my baby right now, and it's doing quite well, and that makes me happy. But because my baby is doing well, I am now contracted to write several more cookbooks. And they're a little different. What's nice about those is they are subject oriented, so they're not, there's not a whole bunch of other information. It's just 50 easy dinner recipes. It's called Easy Keto Dinners. And then the next one's going to be Easy Keto Desserts, and it's 50 recipes with some extras in there for, for helping you make things or have sides to go with your meal or whatever. And, I mentioned the cookies that people couldn't tell, the butter pecan cookies. They are in. Yeah, they're in the Everyday Ketogenic Kitchen.
Okay, they're in here. Okay, I was just looking at, there's a cinnamon roll recipe in here too I was going to show everybody, but I can't find it.
Oh, yeah, that one's a good one.
Yeah.
But the butter pecan cookies are really great for the holidays. They kind of taste like shortbread. So, yeah, they're a really popular recipe. A lot of readers are making them and loving them, so I'm really glad. Although people keep asking me, am I sure I didn't make a mistake and there's supposed to be an egg in there? And I'm like, nope, no egg. No egg. I promise it works.
Like you said, almond flour and a stick of butter, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's exactly it. In fact, it does take a stick of butter and a lot of almond flour.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, that you have some amazing recipes on your blog and in these cookbooks. So thank you for your experimentation so the rest of us can benefit from that. They're exciting. And so I wanted to invite our audience. If we're going to tell you how you can win this cookbook, so stay tuned. And then also make sure you go pre-order those cookbooks on Amazon, right? Is that where they can get those?
Yep.
So pre-order those coming out this spring, her keto dinners and keto desserts, which they're just amazing. I'm excited to get my hands on those as well. So
great.
All right. And then Carolyn, you had a gift for our audience. Can you tell us what it is? And I'll tell them where they can go to get that.
Yeah, we're going to, on my website, if you sign up for my newsletter, you can get my a little booklet of my 5 most popular recipes. One is brownie cheesecake. I'm just saying you need that recipe. And then there's also, I know another one very popular is my coconut flour pancakes. So both of those are in that book, and just come to my website at All Day I Dream About Food and sign up for my newsletter, and we will we'll send you that.
Okay, awesome. We'll put the link here on the video play page so people know where to go to get that as well. But Carolyn, this has been great, a fun conversation. Thanks so much for being on with us today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me.
Yep. Have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you next time on the Keton Express Summit.